people who speak a second language? What have you overheard people saying about you when they thought you couldn't understand? A friend of mine and I, both Americans, were in Sweden riding a train to our apartment. We were both fluent in Swedish, but we were talking in English because it's easier. Two girls get on the train and sit across the aisle from us, and they say in Swedish, "Look at that guy, my friend, he's so hot. He looks like he works out, has a nice beard. I want him. I need to have him." My friend and I both play it casual because we know that they'd be pretty embarrassed if they knew either of us spoke Swedish. Then my friend pulls out his phone and calls a friend of ours, and in Swedish says something along the lines of, "Hey, just checking if things are still on tonight. Call me back when you get the chance. See you later," to her answering machine. We sat there in silence for maybe 5 seconds until one of the girls says, "And he speaks Swedish. How awkward." Then we made small talk for a bit with these girls until they ran off the train at the next stop. I was working construction, white guy in Nashville, only one on the site who spoke English. The painters were talking about my man boobs in Spanish. So, in Spanish, I yell back across the house, "They're still nicer than your sisters." Dead silence, then roaring laughter. I got greeted with a super enthusiastic, "Hey, gringo," every morning after that. Many things overheard. But my favorite moment was early on when I first moved to Japan in 1994. Waiting on the train platform in a rural village when a mother and her young son come through the gate. Immediately, the son grabs her mother's hand and tells her in Japanese that they have to be careful of me, that I'm a dangerous foreigner. He promised to protect her, but he was hiding behind her. We had a long wait. Eventually, he decided he could creep closer, still muttering under his breath about the foreigner. So I muttered back, "I love Japanese children. They're delicious." He ran screaming. I did not feel bad about it. At a blackjack table in an Indian casino, two Mexican dudes were kinda drunk and talking business. Big business. Of the Breaking Bad variety. I kept my head down and mouth shut and pretended I didn't hear a goddamn word. You did the wise thing. Yeah, it was the 90s meth epidemic, and bodies were being found in ditches. Sat across from two German girls on a train. They said I was 7/10, maybe 8/10 if he smiled more. Looks like his mother died or something. Smells nice though. I told them my mother was fine. I had a similar experience with two Mexican girls on the elevator. I'm Mexican myself, but a lot of people tell me that I look like a darker Persian. Whatever the fuck that means. But I was standing behind them, and they were talking about how cute it would be if I was Mexican, and they could get to know me better, and that it was a shame I wasn't a Spanish speaker, and that I looked so serious and moody. Then one of them said something about my hometown in Mexico. The moment was too good to give up, and I said, "Oh, de que parte de la ciudad viven ustedes?" Which translates to, "What part of the city do you live in?" And they just turned pale and walked out. I can't say I wasn't swooned by their interest in me. I'm a black guy living in Japan. I hear things all the time, but this exchange remains my favorite. I was sitting on the train and there were two girls standing next to me. Girl 1. "Wow, look, it's a black guy." Girl 2. "Yeah, I've never seen one in person." Girl 1. "He's quite big and scary, don't you think?" Girl 2. "Yeah, but you still sleep with him, wouldn't you?" Girl 1. "So would you." Unfortunately, I didn't make anything happen from that. My dad's company was doing work in Iran back in the 80s when diplomatic relations started to deteriorate. There was a lot of money in escrow waiting for a project's completion. They sent an American whose parents had been diplomats along on the project because he spoke Farsi. While they were working, two guards near them had been talking, so the engineers asked the guy who spoke Farsi what was being said, and he said he would tell them later. When they got back to the hotel, he explained how one guard had said, "Let's just kill them now." And the other guard said, "No, wait until they finish the job first." They grabbed their shit and hopped the next flight out of the country that night. The next day, the American embassy was overrun, starting the hostage crisis featured in the movie Argo. I am a native Polish speaker living in Australia. It was Christmas Eve, and I had not yet bought my girlfriend a present. I went to one of our malls, which is open 24 hours on Christmas Eve, and decided to do some shopping. The queues were ridiculous everywhere, but I decided to go to the Tiffany & Co. store, as I had little idea what to buy my SO. I was in line to ask for assistance with an item. It was a pen that was on display. I was in line for a good 10 minutes when a yuppie, posh, expensively dressed, entitled Polish-speaking couple are within earshot, and I overheard this. "Honey, let's not wait in this queue and cut in front of this guy," referring to me, and slowly they inched closer and closer in front of me and sort of merged with the queue. I thought I'd let them wait with me for a bit before I said anything, especially because they were praising themselves on how clever they are for jumping the queue. After about 5-10 minutes, when they were well and truly in front of me, I thought back to my old days, living in the gray communist flats or blocks of 90s Poland, and thought of how I would have reacted to this situation back then. I put on my Warsaw ghetto attitude and said, "A Wyko Kurwa Mac?" Translating roughly to, "And what the fuck do you suppose this is?" They looked at me with shock as I directed them to the back of the queue. I've always hated the wealthy Polish migrants. They have weak souls. I live in Japan, and this happens quite a lot, and to varying levels of insult. I'll tell a cute one. I was at McDonald's perusing the menu board, and the longer I stood there, the more uncomfortable the staff became. "Oh no, no one speaks English. We have to find the English menu." "Shit, where is the English menu?" I told them, "No, it's okay. I'm just thinking." They all sighed in audible relief. I'm from American, but I live in Japan, and my friend came to visit last year. While we were sitting at a counter at a sushi restaurant, this Japanese older couple came in and sat in the seats next to us. We were just looking at the menu and talking about what to order. And I overheard the guy next to me talking to his wife saying, "Oh, I wonder if they're okay. They probably can't read the menu. Should we do something? Maybe we should help." It was actually kind of cute. I just turned to them and politely said that there was no need, but I appreciated the thought. I lived in Western Africa, where most 99% of white folks are visitors who don't stay long enough to learn the local language. Even though English is an official language, most prefer their native tongue. One day, I left my cell phone in a taxi and had to chase it all the way to the taxi ranks. Out of breath, I asked, in English, for my phone. She said she had it, and I had to pay what amounted to $10. I said no, and she should give it to me. I paid my fare. Her and the other drivers started speaking Fanti, saying I should pay more, maybe $20. I had the money. I was an American. So I walk over to her slowly, put my hand on her shoulder and say, "Auntie, osianda mi ye obroni, woduin min sas Fanti, ah? Wose zinpa ye senohonia, ah? Auntie, because I'm a white guy, you think I don't speak Fanti? Your people say that a good name is better than riches, yes?" All of the cabbies got quiet and turned to her. She just held out my phone, and I grabbed it and casually walked away to the oohs of all the other cabbies. From that day, whenever I took a cab in that town, they called me Zinpa, a good name. Not in real life, but I was once playing Stronghold 2 online. Apparently, pretty much everyone on there was German. Anyway, I'd greeted them in English, so I guess they assumed I only spoke that. And so even though there's no allies-only chat, they felt comfortable talking about their plans with each other. They discussed their strategies in German. I understand German. I did well that game. Two old Japanese ladies in a sauna were talking about their niece and how she was about to marry a stupid American and was making a huge mistake. Finally, one of them said something like, "There's other people in here. Maybe we should talk about this later." To which the other responded, "What, those two white girls? Yeah, sure, like they would understand." My friend and I were only like 12, but we're in a Japanese immersion program. When we left, I said, "I hope you get the problems with your niece worked out." I was in downtown Seattle on the ferry to Bainbridge Island, sitting across from these two gorgeous Swedish girls. They were talking about how good-looking I was for an American, and were debating inviting me back to their hotel with them to party and show them a good time. Now, I don't speak Swedish per se, so this interpretation was based entirely on my imagination. Dear viewer, if you have similar stories from life, you can share them in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. Good luck!